is my great pleasure to welcome Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon to spend some time with us to give us some words. We've got, I think, about 45 people between the Zoom and the YouTube right now listening, and more that will be tuning in later to this recording. So, Senator Jeff Merkley, I'm going to give it over to you to give us some words of positivity and encouragement. And thank you so much for all the advocacy you've done for both foster youth and LGBTQ people. Take it away.
You bet, Elliot. It's a pleasure to join you. Greetings to everyone and happy Pride Month. And thank you to Unicorn Solutions and Partners for organizing the Zoomathon to be visible, to be unstoppable. And Elliot, we're particularly proud of you coming from Oregon, going to Portland State University, working with the Oregon Health Authority, your leadership to hold space, to share stories, to stand in solidarity with LGBTQ plus youth and families across this country. So here we are, 10 years ago, the Supreme Court made its landmark decision in Obergefell versus Hodges, declaring that marriage is a fundamental right for all Americans, no matter whom you love. What an impact that decision has had for a generation of young folks who have never known a world without marriage equality. But we know that there's a sizable group in America that wants to take away freedom. And since day one, this administration, this president's lackeys have all been trying to erase and endanger LGBTQ plus Americans, especially transgender Americans. Members of Congress are fighting back. Just last week, I was with advocates. It was right after the Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee law a law that banned medically necessary gender affirming care for transgender youth. We were going to be holding the rally in front of the Supreme Court, and then a rainstorm came along, and we moved it to a church behind the Supreme Court. And it was important to be there to help kick off that rally, because attacks on freedom and equality have to end, and we have to meet those who would take away freedom in America head on. And earlier this month, I introduced the No Place for LGBTQ plus Hate Act to stop Trump's hateful executive orders targeting LGBTQ plus Americans in all aspects of public life. And in April, I reintroduced the Equality Act, and every senator in the Democratic Party co-sponsored the act. It's all designed to guarantee freedom and equality for all LGBTQ plus Americans. And you know, the way that happened, because when I first kicked off the Equality Act, and I was there with John Lewis, and we are in the LBJ room, and there's a bank of cameras across the entire room, and above them out the window I can see the Supreme Court. Above those pillars in the Supreme Court, it says equal justice under law. And I thought, well, how did this happen that a relatively new senator from Oregon is kicking off this Equality Act? And the way that happened is that in Oregon, if you turn the clock back, we had a credible hate-filled group, Oregon Citizens United, who did ballot measure after ballot measure attacking equality, attacking our lesbian, transgender, and gay Oregonians. And the Democrats were in the minority in the House and Senate. And in 2003, I quit my job. I said, we have got to organize and take a majority in the Oregon House, get a blue majority that will stand for freedom and equality. And I worked with Oregon Basic Rights, and we said, you know, if we can take a majority, and we can get a majority in the Senate, we are going to pass what we could at that time in terms of our state constitution, domestic partnerships. We would have to change the Constitution to actually get marriage at that moment, and Equality Act. And we wrote a very, very powerful Equality Act. And then after 2 cycles of organizing, we took the House. I became the House Speaker, and the leader of the Senate was very hesitant. Oh my goodness, too much, too fast. I said, no, we have talked about how important both these measures are, and we're going to pass both of them. I'm going to make sure the House passes them, and if they get to the Oregon Senate and you don't pass them, well, that would be a shame, but we're going to do our part in the House, and we did. And then, of course, both bills made it to the governor and were signed. And so when I came to the Senate just the next 2-year cycle because I took on an existing senator, a Republican senator, and so came into the Senate fresh off that victory. And Ted Kennedy was sick with brain cancer, and he wanted to pass on work, and he was working on the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. Of course, that was about equality just in the employment realm. And so he and his team asked for me to lead that effort and or carry it on for him. And I said I would do so only under the agreement that everyone around the table agreed that nobody would be cut out. There would be no cutting out of the transgender community. It had to be everyone in, just like we had done in Oregon. And everyone agreed with that. And it took a few years before we could get the Senate to the point where I was able to go to Harry Reid and say, we've made as much progress as we can without people having to take a position. A lot of people are hiding. They won't say where they stand and they dodge the issue. We've got to put it on the floor. And we did. And we passed it with a supermajority. Great, except the House wouldn't take it up. But anyway, that's when in the kind of aftermath of that situation where we had passed Employment Non-Discrimination Act in the House, and excuse me, in the Senate, but the House wouldn't take it up. Advocates got together and we brainstormed. We said, what should we do next? We said, well, if we can get the Senate to vote for freedom and equality in employment, why not in jury duty? Why not in financial transactions? Why not in places of public accommodation? Why not in housing? Why can't we get it all? And so that was the drafting of the Equality Act, and I've been pleased to lead it ever since. Frustrated, very, very frustrated, because we reached kind of a peak in which we had two different Republican senators, Senator Kirk, who then lost his election, Senator Collins, who then did not join us again in reintroducing the Equality Act. And so these worlds become more polarized. So we've got a lot of work to do. We need partners across the aisle. We need Republican partners. So a lot of what drives me is the vision of freedom. Freedom. It's the right to participate fully and equally in every aspect of American life. Who can be against that? Let every person thrive. It's the right to live as your authentic self without fear of harassment or discrimination or violence, and the right to know that others can't take your rights away from you. That's part of freedom as well. And the Equality Act tells all LGBTQ plus people, you're not alone. This is your country true. We embrace you, and you do have that right to fully participate in our national life, because the future belongs to all of us equally. So as we're celebrating Pride Month, as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of a landmark victory, we will not stop fighting until all LGBTQ plus Americans are treated as equal in dignity, equal in promise, and equal under the law. Thank you for being visible. Thank you for being unstoppable. And let's secure that vision of freedom and opportunity for all together. Take care.
Thank you so much, Senator Merkley. One question I've been asking all of our speakers today, pretty easy one, I hope, which is, what do you do to experience joy? So when you're not working, which I'm sure is plenty of the time, what do you do to get joy in your life?
There's a couple things, Elliot, and one of them is I like to do it yourself projects.
Oh, cool.
I spent a couple years gutting and rebuilding a house, so I developed plumbing and wiring and carpentry skills. And like right now, I'm at work building a deck. So it's just like something tangible,
Yeah.
unlike the legal world. The
Yes.
other thing is I have the hobby of paragliding, where
Oh,
you tie
cool.
yourself to a big kite and go run off the tops of mountains. And if you catch the air currents
Yeah.
rising, you with no motor and just
Yeah.
on rising air, you can fly, and it's incredible.
That's so amazing. I love flying kites, and I haven't yet gotten to the place of wanting to fly myself like that, but it sounds it looks cool when people do it. And like the Columbia River Gorge where people do the parasailing and all that. It looks cool, but it looks terrifying.
But when you're ready to tie yourself to a kite,
Yes.
I'll line you up with the Oregon coast. There's a great place to learn how to do this on the dunes. The air's steady, so it's much
Perfect.
safer. You got modest sized dunes. You can get a few feet off the ground while you figure out how to launch and land. And And
Love
it
it.
really is, we're the first generation in human history that had the
Yeah.
technology to be able to do this.
Well, it's very cool. Thank you for sharing it. And then the last thing I'll say is I'm committed to Oregon. I lived there for 10 years. It was a great place to be. And I just moved back to Wyoming this last year to help where I grew up, because obviously there's plenty of issues there for our community. But what I've said to some of the other leaders that talked today is your work representing Oregonians still has a greater impact beyond Oregon, representing people like me in states that are senators or representatives, both in the state and federally. I don't have hopes that they're going to show up to have my back, but when you and others do, it means a lot to those of us in states where we're not seeing that support. So thank you for all the work that you do. It's really appreciated.
You are so welcome. I'm honored to be in partnership with all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Merkley. I hope
Thank
you have
you.
a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.